Welcome to the very first ever Nerd Stuff live stream. I've never live streamed before, so you'll have to forgive me if anything is funky with the audio or the video or anything, but we're here in my studio and I have some questions lined up that you guys asked. I had posted a question the other day in celebration of reaching 1K on my channel. I thought it would be fun to do a little Q&A and answer some of the questions that you asked. And I got, let's see, how many did I get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions. So it shouldn't take too long to get through. I'm not anticipating this going for super long, but thank you to anyone watching live or watching after the fact. I see you and I appreciate you. We're here in the studio. We got, oh my gosh, almost knocked over my computer. Sorry. We got Halloween Town lined up. The vibes are set. Got some tea. And yeah, before we start off, hello, produced by Leo D'Angelo. Hello, thank you for saying hi. Yeah, before I jump into the questions, I just wanted to say a really sincere thank you. This is a live stream in celebration of reaching 1,000 subs on my channel, and I just didn't really anticipate like people watching. This all started literally like a month ago. I started with like 200 subscribers on my YouTube channel, and now I think I'm like, I've crossed 1,000 over that. And I've been overwhelmed by the level of support from people, just being so kind in the comments and supportive, and just lots of people connecting on and off the platform, talking about, building a community, and that just like makes my heart so happy. So yeah, I'm just like overwhelmed with how quickly this has sort of caught on with our growing community. So anyway, just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone that has subscribed, commented, shared, liked. You guys are so sweet, and I am so grateful to have a community, whether it be online or in person. Yeah, I'm just so thankful to have like-minded people who are not pretending like they know everything, because I think if anyone says that they know everything, then they're lying. We're all just learning together. We're all figuring this out together, So with that, I'll stop yapping, and we can get into these questions. The first question, well, there's a few questions that are a little bit more esoteric, and I figured I would answer those first, and then there's some more like technical kind of production-based questions following that. Hello to Nomadic Life. Thank you for saying hi. So with that, here's the first question that someone asked. They said, what's the first thing to invest in as a total beginner with no professional equipment? They said they're unsure if they should pay for software when they don't really know anything about music production. So the question is, what's the first thing to invest in as a total beginner? That's a great question. And I don't know if I'm like qualified to answer it, but I would say when you have the person who asked this question had mentioned that they are already using Audacity and they have like minimal experience with working in production. And so my suggestion would be to learn what you have and then go from there. If you can utilize the tools already at your disposal, then I think that will set you up for the future when you do want to invest in, gear or a new DAW or something like that. Because make no mistake that there are professional songs being made right now on free DAWs. There are professional songs being made on GarageBand on a phone. So you can make music with any tools at your disposal. So don't knock, don't feel like you like you need to go out and spend a bunch of money on a bunch of gear. But I would say if you were interested in buying gear, I would probably say if you're a beginner, look for something similar to like a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 interface. That was my first interface and it's great for the money. It's less than $200. And then I'd probably buy a microphone, maybe like a used Beta 58 or something. Because those are kind of old reliable. So anyway, yeah, that's what I would suggest. But first, I would say don't feel pressure to buy anything or invest a bunch of time and energy into something when you already have the free tools at your disposal. So that's my answer to the first question. Someone said, "I just joined and you're preaching facts." Thank you. Yeah. Also, someone else was being very kind. Aaron Garlington, thank you for your kindness. And Nomadic Life asked where I'm from. I realized I've never really introduced myself before. My name is Mary, and I'm from LA. I live in LA, and this is where I do music. And someone said, I disagree. Do you disagree with the fact that I'm from LA, or disagree with the fact that you don't necessarily need to buy a bunch of stuff? I will say this. I was at the fabric store yesterday. On the side, I like to do some sewing projects. I'm very new. And the lady at the counter was like, if I buy all this stuff, then that means that I'll do the project. And I was like, you know what? Fair. So whatever is the thing that pushes you forward into doing the projects, whether that's learning the tools already at your disposal or going out and maybe investing in one or two pieces of gear, that's fully up to you. But just don't feel pressure to do anything you don't want to do. You disagree with everything. I can't help you there. So anyway, I'm seeing some stuff in the comments. Yeah, I don't know about Reaper. I'm fully a Logic gal. But yeah, I mean, I encouraged in some of my other clips to just learn what you have, figure out what DAW is right for you, and then just keep exploring. So anyway, let's go on to the next question. Somebody asked, how do you balance the desire to get things right with the ability to actually finish things? Which this is a very good question. They also said having high standards is a good thing to an extent, but not if it grinds you to a halt while chasing crippling perfectionism. This is definitely something that I'm still trying to strike the balance. I think the short answer is I don't really know. The long answer is I think that being self-aware as an artist and producer is probably one of your biggest tools, and maybe most underrated tools, because you can ask yourself, if you're struggling with a song, you can ask yourself, why am I struggling with this? Is it because I'm trying to do something that maybe isn't true to me as an artist? Or, I'm maybe biting off more than I can chew at this time. Just having that kind of check-in with yourself, I think can be really helpful in determining whether or not you want to invest the time and energy into, perfecting something, or maybe just letting it lie. As we all know, I'm a big proponent of not letting songs die on the hard drive graveyard, but I do think there is a balance. If there's something that you feel like is just stripping your creativity and it's, you're just spinning your wheels, then maybe it's time for a step back. So yeah, I would say the short answer is I'm still trying to figure out that balance between getting things right and finishing things. And I think that's just a part of the creative process. So let me see. Let me go through these comments. Someone said you'd be interested in watching videos of me producing. Thank you so much. Can I turn off the TV? My electric bill will go up. Oh, we got Ildefonso Inc. in the chat. Those are my friends. How do I prevent UAD console from glitching out while I'm in a recording session? I don't think even God in heaven can answer that question, Ildefonso. Sometimes, they put out an update and it just doesn't agree with us. Someone else said, my dad always used to say, when is a piece of art finished? Because you can keep going forever. Yeah, that's a fair point. So yeah, I think, you know, it's fully up to you and your journey. I don't think there's a right answer necessarily for striking that balance between getting things right and, you know, perfecting things and then ultimately finishing projects. So anyway, let's move on to another question. I hope that's helpful. This next question says, where do you find inspiration when writing lyrics to a song? And I think this is a great question. Songwriting and music production, at least for me, have a lot of overlap because a lot of times I am producing while I'm writing. I really like to work that way when I'm feeling inspired by something. I just want to, you know, I want to do it all now. I don't want to wait to produce the song, you know, so that I can write it. I'm doing it all at the same time. So when I'm finding or looking for inspiration, I have a friend who likes to say, what's the most honest thing you can say right now? And I think that that's a really great starting point to find inspiration for your lyrics. Just talking about your real life, but then also to tailoring the conversation happening in your song to be accessible to others. I think that's something that a lot of us indie artists sometimes miss. And I'm speaking for myself that, you know, sometimes because I write from a journalistic type of way, it's, you know, writing songs for me is kind of like my diary. I think I can tend to make it a very univocal experience, whereas in reality, I want more people to relate to the music that I'm writing and making. And so taking others into consideration while still staying true to yourself, I think is a really great way to find inspo for your lyrics. So there's that question. I'm getting caught up. Art is never finished. Just abandon it at an appropriate point. Yes, I agree. Yes. Perfectionism used to be my issue. Quality over quantity. Yeah. Yeah, it's so hard to strike that balance, and it's something that I think is, you know, you're gonna have to figure it out for yourself, which is like kind of a boring answer, but you'll know when it's done. I know when I'm done with a song, it's kind of when I can no longer think of anything else to add. You know, anytime I release a song, just for example, anytime I release a song, there are always things that I am thinking like, I wish I could have done that. I wish I had the skill to do that. And it's usually like technical things. It's not usually like, you know, oh, like I could have added another guitar or something. It's more like, I wish that, you know, 5K would come down on the, you know, like that kind of stuff. And it's like, who's gonna notice? You know, someone might, but really the people that I'm wanting to listen to my music, they're not gonna know. So I think when you reach that point, it's maybe a good sign that you can abandon that art at that point, and, you know, respectfully abandon, meaning put it out into the world. So anyway, let's move on to another question. Someone asked any tips for when you have a creative block? This is a great question too. I honestly had a creative block for most of this year. I felt like I was in an environment for most of the year that was really uninspiring and kind of a draining environment. And when you're in environments like that, you know, you can't expect yourself to write your next opus or write anything that's going to be satisfying to your soul. And so I removed myself from that uninspiring and draining environment, and that's around the time that I started releasing all of my music during the summer. I just felt like a fresh, you know, awakening in my soul. And another aspect of that too that I wrote down in my notes, that my friends, actually, I had a couple friends who in the spring, when I was still in this you know, creative funk, they had told me like, hey, Mary, I just wanted to, you know, tell you they said this out of the blue, you know, I really like your music and you should release more. And I was like, what? Like, tears, hello. So I think that, you know, having people around you who love you and are going to support you is another great way to find yourself moving out of a creative block. And taking some time away too. You know, I don't regret the time that I spent not working on my songs, because it gave me a fresh perspective when I was when I returned to making them. And all the songs that I released this year, except for Bubbles, which is the latest one, those were songs that I had been working on for months, and probably since before the beginning of this year. And I just kind of abandoned them because I was so uninspired. And then when my friends encouraged me to release more music, and then when I, you know, got out of that environment that I was in, I was just like exploding with ideas. So anyway, all that to say, when you're in a creative block, find your friends and move to a inspiring environment, whatever that looks like for you, whether it means just getting out of the house or, you know, going to live amongst the penguins in Antarctica or the Arctic, wherever penguins live. Okay, let me get caught up here. Thank you to everyone commenting and saying hi. You're all so kind. Ildefonso Inc. said, what's your favorite vocal compressor plugin? UA 1176 is my favorite. I like to use the preset, what is it? Major vocal limiter. I like that one. Someone else said, any tips for more vintagey type sound? I've been relying a lot on tape emulation and saturation, but I can't seem to get it to sound quite right on my stuff. That's a really good question. I think EQ can help a lot with getting that vintagey sound, you know, carving out the lows and the highs and kind of like boosting the mids. I don't know if that's not the right answer and somebody knows better, then don't come for me. But that's what I would do. And yeah, tape emulation, of course, is probably one of the things that I would suggest. But you can also do you can find some plugins that have like some flutter and wow and do some really light modulation to maybe get that kind of like vintagey warbled effect. That could be something to try. Oh, my dad's in the chat. He said, wow, this is happening? Yes, Dad, this is happening. Everyone say hi to my dad and be nice. Be nice to my dad. So anyway, okay, let's move on to the next question. Someone asked, who are some current active artists you found in the last 5 years that are most inspiring to you? Look at everyone saying hi to my dad. That's so sweet. Okay, current active artists you found in the last 5 years that are inspiring to you. These people are people that have been making music for way longer than 5 years, but within the last 5 years, I've become like a super fan. And those people are Sudan Archives, Nilüfer Yanya, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing their name right. SZA, of course, she's like my fave. Leanne LaHavas and Rosalia, those are like my top 5 favorite artists. And it's nice too that they're all women artists, and if you've never heard any of their stuff, I would definitely check it out. Sudan Archives, Nilüfer Yanya, SZA, Leanne LaHavas, and Rosalia. I love them all, and they're all inspiring in different ways, but they all make music that like I would want to make. So anyway, there's that. Let me just make sure that I'm not missing anything here. Okay, yeah, oh, you guys are so sweet. All right, someone asked, when recording guitar, do you do DI or do you mic an actual amp? And then a follow-up question was, what plugins do you use for guitar? So my studio here is in my apartment, and I have an elderly lady living above me, and so I exclusively do DI. I do not ever mic an actual amp, although I would like to. It'd be fun, and you know, we've got some amps over there that we could definitely crack open. But yeah, just out of respect for my elderly neighbor, I do not use an amp. So my husband is my primary guitar player. naturally, and so he has a Line 6 HX Stomp on his board, and so we usually go out from his board from the HX Stomp into our Apollo, and that's it. Actually, we have a Franklin DI that goes into our Apollo, and we also have a Scarlett 18i20 so that we can have multiple. Having the Franklin DI is kind of like game changer for creative workflow, like really fast workflow, which is really fun. That's kind of like a relatively new purchase. So anyway, yeah, then the follow-up question is, what plugins do you use on guitar? It kind of varies, but you know, I like to use the LA2A and the LA2A on for compression, and then I also like the UA Pultec, the EQ, UA Verve Analog Machines, which is another good plugin for vintagey vibes, which is kind of like saturation, so maybe that wouldn't work for the person that was asking about that. Also, sidebar, I think I just heard somebody come in that's checking smoke detector. This is so hilarious. So if I get distracted, that's why. And if you hear big beeps, someone's checking our smoke detector. Why they landed on the same day, I don't know. I also like to use Microshift, Sound Toys Microshift on guitars, Valhalla Vintage for reverb, Superplate, Sound Toys Superplate for reverb as well. And then my dad pointed out Guitar Rig as well. Yes, we use Contact Guitar Rig for that. So yeah, we use quite a bit of stuff, and just avoid the amps at all possible, to be respectful to our neighbors. Somebody asked, how do you typically approach writing a new song? I always find it tricky to start, but once I'm in the flow, it gets easier. The starting is the issue. Yeah, that's tough. You know, going back to what I said earlier, where if you can find inspiration from your own life and try and be as honest as possible, then I think that's your best source of inspiration. And, you know, like I said, I'm usually producing and writing at the same time. So I'm in the headspace of sculpting an entire vibe all at once, as opposed to maybe starting out with writing a song and then moving into production. So I don't know if I'm maybe the best candidate to give you advice, but yeah, it can be tricky to start a song, and I don't think you can force the muse. You know, you have to kind of let it happen naturally. And so just check in with yourself and see if there's anything inspiring to you every day. Maybe start journaling and seeing if there's, or, you know, just have a note on your phone of, you know, lines that come to you in the moment, and just write those down, and then you can base your song off of that. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Yeah, someone said safety first for the smoke alarm. I can't believe that this is happening at the same time. It's so insane. Somebody said, do you work in the box or do you have some hardware too? Mostly in the box. I am aiming to get some outboard gear at some point, but it's just so expensive, you know, and plug-in emulations are getting so good that I have some friends who have outboard gear, and it definitely does make a difference, I think, in workflow. You know, like starting point, as soon as you plug in, you're like, wow, okay, this is a cool vibe. So you don't get that with the, you know, after the fact plug-in thing, but at the same time, you know, I'm just not at the space where I can afford to get any outboard gear, but it is on my list of things that I would like to do. And I don't judge anybody who exclusively uses plugins in the box, or, you know, exclusively does like outboard gear. I think to each his own, and you can make great music both ways. Let's see. Have I ever tried recording audio on VHS tape? No, I haven't, but now that I have this guy, I've thought about that, and I'd be interested to figure out how that works. Someone else said reverse engineering and morphing someone else's song is a great way to start writing a song too. Yeah, that's a great idea. Definitely learning from others is always a really important thing for your creative process. My dad asked, is there a tipping point for you when you think this idea isn't doing it, moving on? Yes, I talked about that a little bit earlier, but just to reiterate for those who are just joining, I think it's definitely a unique experience that's fully up to you in the moment. You know, it's not always going to be the same for everyone, and it's not always going to be the same for you every time. But you know, when you find yourself hating the song more than loving it, then I think it's a good indicator that first take a step away. Maybe don't abandon the project completely, but take a step away and yeah, come back to it with fresh ears, and then you can determine after that point if the idea is still not working. And you know, I have one of my friends, Ildefonso, in here in the chat. My friend Spencer, he talks a lot about composting, and so if you can take the idea of composting, which feeds the soil of your garden, and apply it to a more abstract concept of music production, any song, whether it works out or not, is compost for your garden. And so if you can tend to your garden, your creative garden, with your compost, and not give yourself too much put too much pressure on yourself to complete every song that you start, then you know every song has a use. It's never a waste of time. So hopefully that's helpful. But anyway, okay, let's move on. I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time. Thank you so much for being here. So let's move on to, someone had asked if I could share about mixing and mastering. I am definitely still very green when it comes to mixing and mastering. I mentioned in some of my previous videos that right now at this stage in my music production journey, I'm pushing myself to mix and master all of my songs. And I think one of the best ways that I've found success while I'm in this learning process is just to mix as I go while I'm producing. Like I mentioned, I'm usually producing and writing at the same time. And I guess I'm also simultaneously mixing too. You know, I'm making creative choices as well as technical choices as I progress in finishing up the song. And apart from that, I really rely on the trusty feedback of my friends and my family and my dad, who also makes really great music. And so yeah, if you can kind of stick to the basics, you know, I'm definitely not like the benchmark person to ask about mixing and mastering, because again, I am like fully 100% self-proclaimed beginner when it comes to that stuff. But I feel comfortable with the products, you know, of the fruits of my labor. I am comfortable releasing those. And I just try and stick to the basics and rely heavily on the creative choices, you know, so not beat myself up too much about like the EQ is all off here, or, you know, the compression isn't happening. What, you know, stuff like that. Like I'm not putting too much pressure on myself to get all that stuff 100% right. I'm mostly focusing on, is it a good song? Are the effects cool? How's my vocal performance? You know, does it sound decent? And if it does, then I'm like, okay, I feel good about that. As time goes on and I continue to learn, of course, I'm going to be picking up new technical tricks, and I've definitely received a lot of really great advice from you guys just on my videos. Like, so incredible. You guys are all so talented and so smart, and so that's kind of the whole point of this community, is so that we can all grow together and learn new things together. So yeah, anyway, that was mixing. For mastering, I am fully just using Isotope Ozone right now. I would love to venture out and try and like build my own channel strip, you know, for mastering with like specific plugins that I'm curating. But I just don't know enough about it yet, and Ozone works for me and it works for my my workflow, so I'm cool with it for now. I wish that I had more like really cool advice to give when it comes to mixing and mastering, but I guess the main thing I would say is just, you know, trust your ears and trust the ears of your friends as well. Someone is saying Studio DMI has really great mastering plugins. And someone else said, don't use too many plugins. Yeah, that's really smart. Keeping it simple is probably your best bet when it comes to mixing and mastering. I mentioned that too, so I guess we're kind of on the same page. Starting with the basics and then going from there. So yeah, let me see if anyone else has anything before. Those were all my questions. Thank you guys for bearing with me for 30 minutes. Oh my gosh. I can't believe anyone is watching me yap for 30 minutes. You guys are so nice. Those were all the questions. If you have any more, join the community here, subscribe, and you'll see my posts. You know, I think that this was really fun. I really enjoyed it. And I'd like to, you know, make it a part of the regular workflow for the channel. So let me know if you enjoyed it. And for anyone watching after the fact, I hope that 30 minutes isn't too long. I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm just so overwhelmed and grateful for everybody that's here. Thank you for being a part of this community and for being so kind. And also for listening to my music too. I've gotten a lot of people just being super nice about, you know, even beyond the videos, just like going to listen to my music. I'm like, wow, it's insane. So thank you guys so much. And let me know after the fact if you have any more questions. And I thank you all for joining me today. So hopefully this isn't like an embarrassing moment where I'm like, just, you know, I'm like, bye. And then I'm like clicking, you know, and trying to end. That would be embarrassing. So let's try it together. Okay, ready? Oh, yeah, okay. Do you give yourself a set time to finish a song? I figure it out as I go. Last question, and I figure it out as I go. No pressure, just vibes over here. Okay, thank you guys so much. Love to all, and hopefully new episode of Nerd Stuff this Friday, unless the world explodes for some reason. I don't know why that would happen, but let's hope it doesn't. Okay, bye, thank you.